Podcasting is more than just talking. It's listening. BSing with Bob Schmidt.
Entrepreneur, businessman, social media guy, and business owner, Matthew from Orange Computer joining me. I wanted to bring you onto the show, Matthew, to talk to you about our computers, because everybody in business has a computer, but what's the best way to, get your computer set up for business?
Well, there's a lot of things that go in with computers as far as like what you use them for, what your tasks are. The basic business computer, a desktop computer or a laptop computer, will do most of what people need. But it's just figuring out the question of what do I need to use my computer for, and then going from there. And I think that a lot of people assume that, I need a laptop because I need to be mobile, which is true a lot of the time. But for certain business tasks, a desktop computer where it stays in the same place, you can hook up all your stuff and keep it plugged in, really does fit some circumstances a lot better. So even starting with the physical computer, I think people assume, I need a laptop, when that may or may not be the best thing for them. So really the question to start with is, how am I going to be using my computer? Am I going to be using mostly documents, email, communications? Am I running a specialized application for audio or video? And then going through and figuring out, hey, what's my main task? And then what machine do I want to get to do that? Or if I already have a machine, what changes do I need to make sure that it does the thing that I want it to do? Because the main thing, or the main important thing with computers is computers are just tools to help you accomplish tasks. And they're programmed to do that. But you want to make sure that you're clear on what task do I want to accomplish with this machine, and then make sure the machine is set up the way you want it to do the task that you want to accomplish. So it's a very general overview, but that basic part I think that a lot of people overlook. It's just a machine to help you accomplish stuff, to do things, to get tasks done. And then once you start from there, then you can customize your machine or set it up in the way that you want it to be done.
I guess the biggest shock that you said to me was that desktops are still a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I carry a laptop with me everywhere. I like being mobile. I've certainly overheard people say, you've got to have a laptop because you got to be mobile. But, in certain circumstances, especially things like video editing or even working with documents or coding or websites or programming or even lots of communications, having a desktop and a desk where everything is set up how you want it to be set up, and you can have two large monitors, that can be a lot more effective at getting your tasks done in certain circumstances. But if you're a person that always needs to be on the move, you need to be at tons of meetings, that sort of thing, well, then a laptop is going to work better for you in that circumstance. So it depends on what kind of work you do. And a lot of computers, it used to be, when we first got my computer, a computer was well over $2,000 for just, a basic desktop computer that we had to figure out how to do stuff on it, right? Well, now you can get a very powerful computer for around the $500 range, a quarter of that cost. And so the ability to have a laptop for being on the go and a desktop for dedicated specialized work is certainly affordable for most people. Desktops are definitely a thing, and they can be very useful and specific.
For those people that need something that they can have at home for their home base, there's docking stations now too. I know that my wife has a Surface for her work, and somehow they made the Surface dockable, that she's got multiple monitors at work, keyboard and a mouse and all that stuff through that.
Yep.
Through a tablet.
Yep. And most business class laptops will have a little port on the bottom or on the side that they can click into. So HP business class, their Elite Books or Pro Books, Lenovo ThinkPad, Dell Latitude, all these business class laptops have a dedicated dock accessory that you can get for the laptop, and then it clicks in and will charge the laptop through that. Then you can hook up all your stuff to that dock, and that way when you want to click in You can have your monitor, your printer, your extra keyboard and mouse, all that stuff plugged in, ready to go to that dock. You just click it in, your laptop charges, connects to all those things, and when you want to leave, you click it out and put your laptop in your bag and go. So, yeah, the docking station is a great feature that a lot of people aren't aware of for laptops.
Matthew, let's talk about backup on our computers, because I have a lot of audio that I carry around on my laptop, and I use Dropbox for transferring of files and saving of them, but sometimes, I don't get a chance to do that. Is it important to constantly back up your machine?
The big thing is to have important files, documents, pictures in more than one place. And so there's a lot of ways that you can accomplish that. You can use an online syncing service like Dropbox or Google Drive. There's a number of other ones as well, both from big companies to smaller providers. And you can even get your own. I'm using something called Nextcloud right now, which is essentially a cloud service that I have installed on a computer. So there's lots of different things that can do that syncing, and that works well when you're syncing with multiple computers, because then it syncs to the cloud service, and then it also syncs back down to another computer. In the example that we talked about before, where we have a home base with a desktop computer, and then we have a mobile computer, a laptop on the go, then this cloud syncing service works great, because then it's, we save the file on our laptop when we're out and about, and if it gets an internet connection, it uploads it to the cloud, and then it automatically downloads it and syncs it to our desktop computer at home. So then just by saving it in that syncing service folder, like a Dropbox folder or a Microsoft OneDrive folder or a Google Drive folder, and by doing that, you'll have that file in three places fairly automatically. And that acts as a backup, because then you have your stuff in more than one place, your important stuff more than one place. The thing is, you have to make sure that you save it in there and that you check that it's actually, oh, yes, it is actually syncing, because something might go wrong or not work, or a setting might change so that your stuff isn't syncing. So you want to check on it every once in a while, and that's an automatic way to have it happen. It isn't a true backup in the sense that it won't keep versions of stuff. If you accidentally delete something, let's say you're working on your laptop and you want to delete one file and you accidentally delete 5 and you don't notice that, well, then it will sync those changes up. It will delete the file on your cloud service, and it'll then delete the file on your home computer as well, because its job is just to sync. Now, there are some backup settings or archive settings that you can set with some of the services, but I think that people don't realize that if you accidentally delete a file and it syncs to the other machines, well, that deletion syncs through all of the machines, and they can really be upsetting. It's like, I needed that thing and I messed up, and then the thing that I thought it had backed up isn't backed up because it deleted them all, everything else too. So a different kind of backup strategy is a more manual one, or one that archives. So a great example of this, just in the manual case, is I take a USB flash drive, plug it into my laptop. I create a folder on that USB flash drive that has today's dates or the week or something like that on, and then I back up the files that I want, by manually dragging them and dropping them, kind of with a visual metaphor, the desktop metaphor, drag and drop them onto the flash drive, wait for them to copy, eject the flash drive, keep it in a safe place. The next week or the next day or however, do that process again, but with a new folder. That way you can go back to the older versions if you need to.
Well, let me ask this. What should we back up? Because, we're constantly creating Word documents and other types of documents. Do we want to back everything up?
Yeah, most of the documents that you were working on, I would for sure back those up. But for example, things that don't need to be backed up or nearly aren't as much of a loss is, let's say, your music collection. If you've got a music collection, you've got those files on your computer, and those might take up quite a bit of room, might not fit on a flash drive. But if you lose them, you're really not going to be out that much, in the sense of, well, you might have paid for them already. You might have them on CD. You could rip them. You could copy them. You could download them again. There's ways to get that again, because, that Beatles album, tons of other people have that Beatles album too. It's going to be easy to get that again if you need to. But if you have a book that you've been working on several chapters, and it's been weeks that you've been doing this work, well, if you lose that file, nobody else is going to have that. You can't just get that or download that again. So if it's work that you've created, you want to make sure that you have a backup of that. But if it's stuff, I downloaded an ebook, music, downloaded videos, any of those kind of things, that really doesn't matter as much for backup. Sure, you might have to spend time to get it again or money to get some of that stuff again, but it's different than your own creative work that you put in time that would be difficult for you to do again. So that's kind of examples. Your own work, definitely make sure you have it backed up. Other stuff that you can get again, not as big of a deal.
These podcasts are always available at bswithbobpodcast.com. So is there software that's available for us to back up the items that we have on our computer and then to archive that, or do we have to do it all manually?
Yes, there are automatic options that are built into most operating systems. So most people will be using a version of Microsoft Windows, the Windows 10, which I think most people will be using now, has an automatic backup feature. I made a video that shows people how to do that. I've got that on my YouTube page. It's really a matter of just searching for the backup in the Start menu, configuring it correctly so that it backs up to an external drive. That works if you've got that external drive plugged into the local computer. So it works especially well for a desktop computer where you can just leave everything plugged in. With a laptop computer, you got to make sure that you plug the drive in and that process runs and you check on it, that sort of thing. So the Windows 10 backup, built-in backup, works pretty well. It essentially just creates a folder and runs on a schedule, and you can set it up to back up every hour or every day, or there's a number of different settings that you can use that work quite well with the Windows backup utility that comes with Windows. And then the same thing with the Mac OS as well.
Matthew from Orange Computer joining us. Matthew, please send me your contact information, like your YouTube, your LinkedIn, and your Facebook and Twitter, and I'll post all that stuff on the page for the website with the podcast here. So, what happens if you've got everything backed up and the hard drive that you saved it on decided it didn't want to work anymore?
Oh, the backup. So that's why you want to have your stuff in two places. This has happened where somebody is, and correct me if I've got the situation right or not. Essentially, let's say somebody backs everything, all their stuff, they just move it. They take all their stuff and move it to an external USB flash drive or a USB hard drive, and that hard drive stops working, or their dog eats the drive or something like that, a chew toy. Well, then that's why it's so important to have it in more than one place. So if you moved everything to that and it's no longer on your computer and it's only on that backup drive could be lost, stolen, put in the washing machine, become a dog chew toy. And then if it's only on that drive, it's gone, or it's really hard. It can be recovered. There's some data recovery services. I can check out the drive. I can refer people to a data recovery service where they send the drive off, and they are often successful at recovering it. So even under kind of this catastrophic failure where the drive just doesn't work anymore, it's possible to get the data back. So that's good to know. It's just expensive, usually over $200-300 to have a specialist use their particular tools to recover stuff. And so backup really saves you time and money by just saying, I've got it in more than one place. In addition to having it on my computer, I have it on this backup drive, and then I also have it on maybe another computer and a cloud service. So that way, if, or classic example, if you've got your backup drive and your laptop in your backpack, and then somebody steals your backup, or your backpack with both the drive and your laptop, or you lose your backup, backpack, or whatever happens, then both your backup and your original are in the same spot and they're gone. So that's another example of things to be careful of, is to make sure that your files are not only in more than one device, both on your laptop and your backup drive, but that they may be in different locations as well. So if something happens with one location, that you've got your files elsewhere. So but those are some examples of some things that could happen. I think it's good to be scared a little bit about I didn't think about that, because then it prompts you to say, hey, if I do have important files today, I can go make a copy, make sure they're in more than one place.
That's some good advice right there. What about virus protection? Is there a better than the other one type of virus protection that's out there?
I think there's good news with that. In recent years, all of the major manufacturers of operating systems, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, all of them really do have good built-in antivirus stuff. So like the Windows 10, Windows Defender that comes with Windows 10 is pretty good. And it's not necessary in recommending another virus protection. Yes, there's probably some great virus protection software out there. People have used Norton for years or McAfee or those sorts of things. But I don't think now it's nearly as necessary because the one that comes with the operating system is so much better now than it used to be. So that's the good news. The bad news is just buying a product won't keep you safe from everything because there's always something new that come out. There's most of the things that could harm you are actually trying to trick you, the person who's using the computer, so not the computer itself. So they could say, hey, if I can get them to call this phone number, and then they could trick you into buying something over the phone that you don't need, or they trick you into installing a program, and they could even trick you into letting changing your antivirus to give it an exception, stuff like that. So you can still be tricked as the person using the computer, and that's the biggest weakness. Even if you do have good virus protection. So just be careful what you're clicking on, making sure that you read things. Do I really need this program? Stuff like that is always good. But I do think that the built-in protection that comes with Windows 10 and with Mac OS is good. So that's excellent. The one paid program that I do recommend is called Malwarebytes. And it runs through and does some checks in active protection against things that is known as malware. So not necessarily viruses, but just software that has malicious intent, doesn't have your best interest in mind. There's a free version of Malwarebytes, and then there's a paid version of Malwarebytes. And the free version allows you to run some manual scans. The paid version does some active protection stuff. I think it's $25 a year. If people really want to buy something, that's usually the thing that I recommend.
Okay, now will that help us to secure our environment then, or is there anything else that we can do in order to make sure that we're safe when we're on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or any of the millions of email hosts that are out there?
Yeah, so the web browser that you use, some are better than others, and there's add-ons that will keep your web browsing environments more secure. And the thing that I like to recommend for people is an ad blocker. So I use AdBlock Plus from adblockplus.org. It's a free add-in that you can add to most browsers that blocks most advertisements. It doesn't block all advertisements, but it blocks most of them, and it blocks the ones that are really obnoxious or pop-up things or that sort of thing. But the thing to know, of course, is that a lot of websites, their business is based on ad revenue, which is great. That's fine. That's their business model. So a lot of websites will say, "Hey, we've noticed you've got an ad blocker on. Please make an exception for our website so that we can continue to provide you the news stories or whatever it may be." So in that case, you can just go up to the corner and say, disable ad blocker for this website, and then it will show you the ads and the articles from that website. But a lot of websites are getting much more aggressive with that, saying, hey, we need to be able to get ad revenue to write these stories and hire our people and that sort of thing. So please, turn off your ad blocker or subscribe to us, and then with a paid subscription, then it might be ad free. So there's a lot of different revenue models for news websites and content or special articles or that sort of thing that you may encounter with an ad blocker. That said, I think an ad blocker is great because it blocks all that junk and crust and suggestions and the things that pop up, really annoying things. An ad blocker will stop that. And so a great browser that does ad blocking automatically is called the Brave browser, and it's available from brave.com. I don't use it. The browser that I use most is Firefox, and I just use AdBlock Plus add-in with Firefox. But Brave is a great browser because it blocks all that stuff and tracking and keeps you secure and private and blocks most advertising. By default, it's just built into the Brave browser, and it's a great option for a lot of people. If people like Google Chrome a lot, but are concerned about privacy, downloading and switching to the Brave browser is a great option. It's free. There's a lot of great stuff that goes with it. It's fast. I think Brave browser from brave.com is something to check out if you're concerned about privacy, but you're currently using Internet Explorer or the Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. Brave is a great alternative, and then I use Firefox as my favorite browser.
All right, because I'm using the Chrome browser. So is there things I need to worry about having that as my operating system or as my browser? I mean,
default web browser, it's a favorite for a lot of people, and I would say if you really love it, feel free to keep on using it. Having an ad blocker is good, and you can get AdBlock Plus for the Chrome browser too, so that's just fine. Just a few things to know about is that I think it's still the case, but for certainly a long time, and I don't believe that Chrome has really solved this issue. The Chrome browser uses a lot of processor power and drains batteries on laptops a lot faster. So if you're out and about and you're using the Chrome web browser, you could get significantly less battery life using the Chrome browser if you've got a bunch of tabs open. So something to know about, not a deal breaker, but Chrome browser uses more battery power quicker if you're on a laptop than the Firefox browser would. So something to know about. And I think Brave also uses quite a bit more energy than Firefox as well. It's not a deal breaker on your laptop. It might only be a 15 minutes or a half hour difference, something like that, but something to be aware of. Then the second reason why Chrome isn't a favorite is all the add-ons and extensions that you can get, which is good. You can say, hey, I want to get this add-on to do this, or the ad blocker that I mentioned. It's an add-on or extension that you can download and kind of plug into your browser. The ones for the Google Chrome browser extensions, the code isn't reviewed or audited by a real person. It's just kind of done some automated checks to say, yep, okay, that looks good. The program checks that out for it to be included in the Chrome extension store or whatever they call it. With Firefox, a real person actually goes through and reads all of the code. So if there's anything malicious hidden in there or there's something that's just not quite right, a real person can check that better than an automated kind of robotic check. So that's one thing to know about. But for most people, if you really like the Chrome browser, I think it's perfectly fine to keep on using it. Just know that there are great alternatives to try, such as the Firefox browser and Brave from brave.com.
So, Matthew, what are some other good business-type apps that we can put onto our computers?
I really like some web-based ones. It really is all about how do you get your tasks done. So to-do lists or things that organize your documents or your day or your schedule or that sort of thing, I think are really important. So there's a service that is done really well called Todoist. So it's TODOIST. And that's available as an app for your mobile phone and from Todoist.com. And essentially, you create an account, you log in. It's a service, and there's a free edition, and then you can pay for being able to do more stuff. And it's a really unique way of doing or keeping track of tasks because you can categorize them. It's complicated, but it's also pretty easy to use. So they've put all this functionality that you can do with to-do lists and made it very easy and accessible and pretty easy to use. And then it syncs so that, you can have the app on your phone and you can bring it up on your computer and you can have it in a web page. And so Todoist.com is a great way to keep track of all the stuff that you need to get done. I used to use it a lot. Now I use essentially a simpler to-do type of thing that I use with the Nextcloud server that I've set up for myself. You can also just do a really good job with pen and paper, right? Even though we live in a very tech world, if you've got a really great system in a notebook with pen and paper for your to-do lists and calendars, as long as you're using that tool well, it can complement what you're using with the computer. So even though I love computers and I like them a lot, there's certainly more ways to get things done than always using the latest app. Sometimes it can be just a simple documents, either on paper or in your computer, that if you've got a really great way of organizing your thoughts, use what works for you.
Right.
But I guess the encouragement is try a few different things, figure out what works for you, and then keep on using it.
Actually surprises me to hear you say that.
Yeah, pen and paper still works. I mean, and we even mimic things, right? The latest tablets. What do they do? Well, they try to mimic pen and paper, with the stylus as much as they can. So sometimes, and you can use them together. So a lot of times you can do write or brainstorming on paper, with a pencil and paper or pen and paper, and then you can take your phone and take a picture of it and archive that, and then back up that photo. So there's ways that we can use older technologies that you don't think of as techie, but combine them with the ease of being able to take a picture with a smartphone or file it in a computerized system so that you can recall it or search for it later. So we can use these things together. We don't always just have to use the latest tech thing that people say we need to use.
Finally, Matthew, I want to hit on speeding up our computers. I know that a lot of times people have their computers and they have it open and it runs all day long and it slows down and slows down and slows down, and pretty soon it's like
you bought that computer a couple of years ago, and now it just isn't nearly as fast as when you first got it. Absolutely, it's a common problem. And so there's a couple things, making sure that you've got the latest updates from your operating system provider is good. It keeps your computer safer, and it might fix some issues and bugs and that sort of thing. But they can also introduce problems. If those updates take a lot more memory to run on your older computer, then they could slow things down too. But I think overall, people often ask me, should I run the updates? And for the operating system, absolutely. I do think it's best if you keep your system up to date. So that's a good thing to do. The second thing is to remove programs that you don't use. So if you installed a program for your printer, but now you no longer use that printer, you got rid of it, but the software is still installed for that printer on your computer. Well, you're not ever using that because you're not using the printer. So removing that software, going to the add and remove program into the program list, and uninstalling that program that has to do with the printer that you no longer use is really good. Or if you downloaded a bunch of programs and you were just testing things out and you were comparing programs and you decided on one, you said, I'm going to use this one. Well, then the ones that didn't make the cut, the ones that you were just trying out or demoing, we'll remove those when you say, I'm not going to use those anymore. So only having the programs installed that you're actually actively using or that you know for sure you're going to be using in the future is a good thing. Let's say you installed a game, but I really don't want to play that game anymore. I'm done with that one. Well, then uninstall it from your computer. That really does help. Then from a hardware perspective, if your computer has an older spinning style hard drive called a hard disk drive or HDD, hard disk drive, that's a drive that is just so much slower than the newer solid state drives that don't have a moving part and are at least 10 times faster than an older hard drive. So especially if I was counseling somebody, if you're going to be buying a computer, in the near future, make sure that you buy one with a solid state drive. I don't think it makes sense at all to buy a computer today that has an old hard drive that's 10 times slower than the one next to it as an option that has a solid state drive. I think it's just so much better to get a solid state drive for both reliability and speed, because the solid state drives don't fail nearly as often as the older style hard drives because they don't have a moving part. They still can have problems and they can still fail, but they fail so much less than the old hard drives. And like I mentioned before, it's about 10 times faster. So doing those updates, starting the computer, installing programs, pulling up stuff is just so much better. You have it's a joy to use a computer that has an SSD, and then when I have to go back to a computer that doesn't, it's like, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. It's so slow. And so I think making sure that your computer, if you're buying a computer, has an SSD, or there's ways to migrate to an SSD. So you have a current computer system. Something that I can do is migrate, get a solid-state drive as an upgrade, and I can help migrate your current system to that solid-state drive.
Well, I'm going to throw out a testimonial for you right there, Matthew, because I just had my computer go from the old school hard drive to the new solid-state, and this thing zings compared to the way it used to go.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. So that's something that I love to tell people about, because not everybody's aware of that just big leap in performance just as a result of changing that one part.
How do we find out more information, Matthew, about Orange Computer? And if we've got questions, how can we get those answered?
Email is a great way. So that's another older school technology. I'm happy to share my email address, so feel free to email me. My email address is Matthew, so that's MATTHEW, at orangecomputerlax.com. So Orange Computer and LAX is short for lacrosse.com. Orange Computer Matthew at orangecomputerlax.com. I'm also on Twitter a lot. I like Twitter as far as social media. I don't do a ton on Facebook. I'll post on Facebook every once in a while. If you search for Orange Computer, you'll probably find me on Facebook. But I'm on Twitter. I'm at Orange Computer. Really easy to find me. I enjoy interacting with people on Twitter. Feel free to message me or follow me there.
The BSing with Bob Schmidt podcast is brought to you by Orange Computer. Find them online at orangecomputerlax.com.
This has been another podcastforhire.com production.